Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to unpack the key insights from the sources you share with us. And today, wow, we're diving into something pretty fundamental about the tech world. Think about that classic image, tech's early days, the smell of solder smoke, maybe a messy garage somewhere, and this almost unshakable belief that software could genuinely change everything. It felt like it was all about curiosity, right? Well, not really the money.
Oh, absolutely. It felt much more like a movement back then. You had these visionaries working crazy hours, often for nothing, just driven by this powerful idea of what was possible. It wasn't about the IPO, definitely not. It was about building something totally new. That's the picture, yeah.
But then you look at the headlines today, those garages, they seem, well, a lot more polished financially now, shall we say. We're seeing things like Meta reportedly offering Ruming Pang, the former Apple AI engineer, or something like north of $200 billion. And it didn't stop there. Meta also grabbed, what was it, a 49% stake in Scale AI for $14.3 billion, tying its founder, Alexander Wang, right into their orbit.
Those figures are, well, they're staggering. But more than that, they're a statement, aren't they? A really clear signal about how top talent is valued, how it's chased in the highest levels of tech now. It's a massive shift.
And that really forces the question, doesn't it? Has the soul of tech actually changed? Have we sort of traded that original passion for, well, payroll? And if so, what does that even mean for innovation, for the future? So this deep dive, it's not about, saying the past was perfect or the present is bad. It's more meditation on this cultural turning point. What gets lost, maybe, when passion becomes just another number on a spreadsheet? Okay, let's try and unpack that. Back then, in the beginning, it really did feel less like a market and more like a movement, focused on these huge, kind of messy but brilliant ideas. Before all the slick campuses and, the standard issue vests, it was often just kids tinkering around.
Exactly. The dream wasn't getting acquired. It was building something the world needed, even if the world didn't know it yet.
Yeah, I remember that feeling from my own early encounters with tech, just wanting to make something.
And you see it so clearly with people like Bill Gates and Paul Allen. Teenagers basically obsessed with coding for the Altair 8800 in this tiny office. They were driven by this shared idea that computing could do something amazing, unprecedented. They weren't dreaming of billions back then. They saw potential.
Or, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, right?
Yeah.
Soldering motherboards in that garage in California, just trying to sell personal computers at hobbyist meetups.
Right. And even Hewlett and Packard, the sort of godfathers of Silicon Valley, they kicked off their whole electronics company with, just over $500 in a one-car garage in Palo Alto. These stories get romanticized, sure, but there's a core truth there.
There really is. These weren't born from market analysis and funding rounds.
No, they were true labors of love, driven by people who saw the world differently. They worked through the night, often for free, because they were literally building the future, hands-on. Loyalty was about the mission, the dream of making something real, something revolutionary.
It's compelling stuff. Now, okay, it wasn't all sunshine and roses. Early innovators were, competitive, obsessive, definitely flawed people.
Sure, but there was this shared hunger, right? Something that went beyond just the paycheck. They weren't chasing valuations, they were chasing wonder. That sheer excitement of creating something impactful.
And that's where it gets really interesting comparing it to now.
Indeed. That pioneering spirit, it's definitely still around, but it's wearing a much more expensive suit, you could say. The garage is often a VC-backed accelerator now, and that dorm room idea, it might be preceded and funded before the code's even on GitHub. The brightest minds aren't just tinkering. They're being courted like top athletes in a global draft.
It really is the era of the billion-dollar brain. I mean, when Meta offered Ruming Pang that huge package, and just for context, you might know Pang for his groundbreaking work on neural networks, especially for the kind of AI that runs on your device like Apple uses. That offer wasn't just a one-off, it was a declaration.
Yeah.
A signal that in this AI arms race, getting the right talent is basically war. And war is expensive.
Absolutely. He was a symbolic get, someone with deep knowledge pulled from a major rival. That can shift the balance.
Yeah, and Meta's been building this superintelligence team, right? Bringing in names like Nat Friedman, Daniel Gross, Alexander Wang.
And with Wang, it wasn't just hiring him. They bought almost half his company, Scale AI, for $14.3 billion. Scale AI, I mean, they're crucial. They do the high-quality data labeling that trains most advanced AI today, so they're kind of indispensable. Buying that stake, it ties Wang's future directly to Meta's strategy.
That's the new playbook, isn't it? AI is set to shape everything, defense, the economy. The stakes are just astronomical, so the price for top talent reflects that. The whole ecosystem now is hyper-efficient. Startups launch with, like, surgical precision, talent gets tracked by algorithms, funding flows fast.
And passion, it's still there for sure. But it exists within this really complex web of incentives, valuations, strategic buys. Loyalty, for a lot of people, it's measured in stock options, maybe not shared ethos anymore. Those kind of wild dreamers, they're managed almost like elite assets in a hedge fund. It's not inherently bad, just different, a very different dynamic.
So, okay, it's easy to think, well, talent is talent. Does it really matter why someone builds an amazing AI? Love of the craft, love of the paycheck. Does the end result change?
Yeah.
But maybe motivations do subtly shape things more than we think.
Oh, I believe they absolutely do. When passion is really the core driver, you get this intangible thing. Let's call it integrity. Not like moral superiority, but wholeness, a coherence between the creator's values and the thing they create.
Right, like maybe open source projects that spring up just because people need a tool.
Exactly. The solutions are often really elegant because they're just built to solve the problem well, not to hit a quarterly target. Products born from that kind of passion, they often have a certain human touch, a drive to solve real issues without cutting corners just because it's cheaper or faster for profit.
Whereas on the flip side, when these huge incentives, massive salaries, bonuses, equity become the main reason talent moves, the work can still be brilliant, technically, but it risks becoming more calculated, less inspired.
Yeah, maybe optimized for short-term wins. Designed to please the stakeholders first, maybe users second. Let's say the soul of the product could get a bit lost under the weight of corporate strategy.
And loyalty. That idea starts to look different too, almost like a liability.
Well, yeah. Why stick with a really difficult long-term vision if the next company might double your offer next year? Why build slowly and carefully when the market seems to reward just speed and going viral? It changes how people approach the work, even if they still care.
And it's important to say, this isn't really about pointing fingers at individuals being greedy.
No, it's more systemic, isn't it?
Yeah, we've kind of built this culture where passion often needs to be monetized to feel validated, where loving the work itself has to compete against the sheer logic of the market.
So the most talented people, they almost have to be realists now, not just romantics.
So what does this mean for you, the person using this tech? What's at risk? Maybe it's not the technical brilliance. Maybe it's something deeper, a kind of moral clarity.
A sense of purpose beyond the boardroom, perhaps. A connection to the user, the world, the sort of human element.
Yeah. If loyalty mainly follows the highest bidder, the tech might work perfectly, but does it still matter in that same deep way?
But, there's definitely another side to this coin. Not everyone sees this as some kind of fall from grace.
True. There's a strong argument that this is just maturity. The tech world is growing up, basically, dealing with its huge impact.
Right. And from that view, high pay isn't corruption, it's recognition. If you're building systems that could genuinely reshape the economy or medicine or climate science, why shouldn't you be compensated at the highest level?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Maybe it's actually a good thing society is finally valuing that kind of technical skill. Like it values, say, top finance people or big-name CEOs.
And let's be honest, this kind of heavy funding allows for projects on a scale those garage pioneers couldn't even have dreamed of. Bigger ambition, potentially much greater positive impact.
Good point. And are passion and pay really mutually exclusive anyway?
Exactly. Lots of today's top engineers, top founders, they are incredibly passionate about their work. They're not just chasing money, they're chasing impact on a massive scale. The stakes are higher, yes, but so is the responsibility. Maybe these huge salaries just reflect that weight, the complexity of the problems they're tackling now.
Plus that whole garage utopia idea. Maybe it's a bit too romanticized itself.
Well, yeah. Many early pioneers had advantages beyond just passion, right? Often white, male, access to education, networks, some capital.
True. Today's talent pool is much wider, more global, definitely more competitive. The garage is kind of digital and worldwide now, allowing different kinds of collaboration.
So perhaps the real question isn't about pay-killing passion. Maybe it's about building systems that reward both. Not trying to go back, but reimagining what passion looks like when talent gets properly paid, but stays deeply motivated to solve the big stuff.
Okay, so we're sort of caught between this nostalgia for maybe a purer past and the complex reality of today's incentives. Where does that leave us?
The key question isn't really if passion still exists in tech. It clearly does. It's more about whether that deeper integrity, the kind that comes from purpose, process, and product all aligning, can really survive, can thrive in a system that seems increasingly geared towards, well, financial extraction over idealistic exploring.
Yeah, will the next big breakthroughs come from people who believe in the mission above all else? Or from the mainly driven by maximizing shareholder value? Can we expect the same depth of care, that same stubborn creativity, that willingness to fail and try again from someone who's basically a high-paid free agent in a constant bidding war?
Can loyalty to a mission ever really win against the sheer gravity of $1 billion offer? It's a tough one, but there are hopeful signs, I think.
Like what?
Well, look at open source communities. Still vibrant, often powered by people contributing for free, just because they care. Or the whole AI alignment movement that's gaining real traction, driven by researchers worried about existential risks, not just paychecks.
Good point. And even inside the big companies, right, there are still teams working on genuinely human problems just because they believe in it.
Exactly. So maybe the future isn't one extreme or the other. Maybe it's a hybrid. A world where good pay doesn't have to kill passion, and passion isn't sacrificed just for the money.
But that requires something. Maybe restraint. Is that the word?
Yeah, maybe. A culture that values depth, not just speed. A system that rewards how success is achieved, not just that it is achieved, and why it matters.
Because ultimately,
Yeah.
you can't fake passion forever. Not really. And in a world with increasingly powerful AI and automation, maybe the most valuable thing left is the one thing machines can't replicate.
Authentic human intent. Exactly.
And, basic economics tells us every action has a reaction. These huge pay packages for top AI people, that creates ripples.
Big ripples. Soon it might be a wave affecting everyone. When one engineer gets offered $200 million, it doesn't just make news. It resets the baseline. It changes what everyone else expects as fair or competitive.
Which could mean what? Talent leaving institutions that can't pay top dollar.
Potentially, yeah. An exodus from universities, maybe public research labs. You could see AI researchers just hopping between big tech firms, chasing the next big payday, turning a field that maybe started with purpose into more of a high-stakes auction.
And startups, how do they compete for senior talent then?
It gets much harder. And
Yeah.
universities, public labs, they could face an even worse brain drain than they already do.
So the risk there is that AI innovation itself becomes kind of gated.
Possibly. Less about the best ideas, more about who has the deepest pockets to hire the best people. Now, the free market rewards scarcity, that's how it works. But the AI field, historically, it thrived on openness, sharing ideas, community. If all the top talent gets locked up inside a few wealthy companies, you risk creating this sort of intellectual aristocracy where just a handful of corporate players shape the future for all of us, maybe with narrower goals.
So you listening to this, you find yourself looking at this really fascinating point where, I guess, heart meets market, vision meets valuation.
Yeah, this whole shift in tech from passion project to massive profit engine. It's not necessarily a tragedy, but it's incredibly revealing. It shows us what we as a society are choosing to value right now.
Those early garage revolutions, they weren't perfect, like we said. Flawed, human, messy. Today's innovation, it's undeniably sharper, faster, way more capitalized. But is it actually better for everyone? That's the real question we need to keep asking.
Maybe time will show this new model genius gets rewarded, loyalty is flexible, maybe it produces wonders we can't even imagine yet, or maybe we'll look back and realize that when passion itself gets a price tag, something vital, something uniquely human gets lost along the way.
So, this isn't meant as a eulogy for the old ways of tech. Not at all. It's really an open question. Something for you to watch closely as things unfold. Not just what gets built, but why it's being built. And, crucially, by whom.
Will the tech of tomorrow still feel like it has the fingerprints of someone who genuinely loved making it? Or will it just reflect the priorities of those who funded it? We honestly don't know yet. But it's definitely something worth keeping a very close eye on.